So my name is Matt Hustwit. I'm the Growth Hub Funding Advisor for the Stoke and Staffordshire Growth Hub. So I've been working at the Chamber of Commerce for 6 years, originally managing my own grant fund, the Jobs and Growth Fund that the Chamber were successful in winning. And previous to that, I was a corporate bank manager for the Royal Bank of Scotland Group for 20 years. Okay, so my day-to-day job is advising companies across the county what grant funds, what debt funds or what equity funding is available to them to help them to grow. They will come to me and we will work with them through a diagnostic to identify what best line of funding would be for them. Obviously grant funding is always popular, and the Investment Readiness Programme complements that because they will always need to provide background information, financial figures to access that type of funding. So the Investment Readiness Programme was launched earlier this year, and it was to stimulate growth companies that couldn't access the grant funding or equity funding or debt funding that was available throughout the county, and mainly because they couldn't provide the funders with a business plan and cash flow forecasts. Most businesses don't use those at the moment, whereas the funds will ask for them to be provided. So the Investment Readiness Programme is to help the companies to pay for that service to be provided by a third party. Could be their accountant, could be consultant, to provide a business plan and cash flow which will enable them to access the finance or grant funding. It was the stimulation of putting this in place, or the reason that the funding was agreed and put into place, was just from history and feedback from clients that we were dealing with over the previous period of the Growth Hub, so the previous 3 years, where they were getting frustrated that they wanted to access this funding. They had a desire to grow, they had a desire to improve Staffordshire and create employment opportunities, but were getting frustrated when in-depth business planning and cash flow finance or projections were being asked for. It was identified by myself and Nicola Kent at the council that this is something that we could help them with, and we were successful in winning some money to deliver out to the companies in Staffordshire. Yeah. So the Investment Readiness Programme was not to pay for the member of staff in the business to prepare these kind of documents. It was to release their time and enable them to pay a third party to prepare the business plan, the cash flow projections, which will give them the time to work on their business, which is what they're good at. So the fund is between £1,000 and £3,000, and it can help with 60% of eligible costs. So an accountant or a third party's costs, we will cover 60% of those, up to a maximum of £3,000. The Investment Readiness Programme can be used to provide the business plan and the cash flow forecasts for a company to access any kind of growth funding. So that could be grant funding, debt funding or equity funding. So the process we've purposely kept straightforward, easy and quick. We get a lot of feedback that grant funding seems to be a scary thing to access. It's either going to take too long, there's the potential that you're going to be told no, you can't access it, and we've tried to simplify that process to make these funds accessible and easy to obtain. The process start to finish could be done within a week. Initially you would be asked to send an expression of interest to myself. It's a 2-page document that literally just confirms your eligibility under the fund. Once accepted and acceptable, we will then request you to complete an application form, send that back to myself, again with your last year's financial accounts and a quote for the work that needs doing. So I can be contacted directly or via the Growth Hub or the business helpline that's operated out of our Stafford office. And I can either come out and visit you and discuss things in full detail, do a business diagnostic and see where we can help you with access to finance or funding. If the Investment Readiness Programme is something that is going to suit you and your business, it's just a direct conversation with myself to access that fund.